Let's get started. Welcome, everyone. My name is Kathy Markove, and I'm your facilitator for today. I'm so pleased to be with you. I am very familiar with America's Job Center of California. I was the operator of the system for San Luis Obispo County, and now am privileged enough to be doing some work here with the Workforce Development Board, which is the governing board for those types of services in addition to other types of workforce programs. So I know we have some people on the line here. If you're a job seeker, if you are a partner to America's Job Center, I'm just thrilled that you came here to talk about what I think is a very important topic, and that is to clean up your social media presence and then keep it that way. So again, I have worked in the workforce system, but fundamentally and at my core, I'm really a human resource professional. I'm certified through SHRM, the Society for Human Resource Development. And by the way, I mention that because it's actually a relatively new certification for me. So I say that because each and every one of us, no matter what we're doing, whether we're looking for work or whether we are employed, we need to keep thinking about how do we grow, develop, and unfold to become truly the professional that we have the potential to become. So as an HR professional, I am very interested in this particular topic, which is cleaning up your social media presence. And so we're going to talk about that today. This is what we're going to be looking at, really. We're going to be looking at your reputation. This is one of the most important things that each and every one of us has. And in fact, we are in charge of ensuring that our reputation is truly excellent. So by the end of this session, my hope is that you'll learn about social media background checks. And I don't know if you've even heard of that. I want to say they're new, but they've been around for almost 10 years. But they're becoming more and more popular among hiring managers. And so this is important that we understand what it is and what we can do to ensure that our reputation, not only just through meeting us, but everything that's come before in terms of what we've posted on social media is still getting at that excellent reputation. We'll talk about how to clean up your social media. Everyone should be thinking about that, and how to maintain a professional social media presence. So there's a couple things I'd like you to do. Everyone on the line, I can't see who you are. I see a few names. I see John and Jan and a few other people. Rosie, so glad to see you. I would like everyone to open up their chat because we're going to use that as part of this workshop. So we're on Zoom, go into Zoom, and there should be a ribbon. And the ribbon should say things like, well, there's a place for chat there. So hopefully you can see my screen. And what I want you to do is find the chat and open up the chat. There we go, Rosie. Hi, I can see you. So if everyone opens that up, this is very important because this is a way for us to share information, but also to learn from one another. So there, I'm saying welcome to everyone. And again, the title is Clean Up Your Social Media Presence. And I'm giving you my contact information. So of course, I want you to go to the America's Job Center site, and when they're open, to go there to get your information, but you can also reach out to me. Anyone who's been in any of my workshops, I love to hear from you. The other thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to, seems I can't upload a file. I want to upload a file for you. So let me see if I can do that. Nope, I can't do that. Too bad. Well, after this, we'll be sure and get everybody the handouts. They're not necessary to participate, but I do have handouts that have some links to some articles and also some information. It sort of summarizes everything that we're going to talk about today. So again, with Zoom, open up your chat. I think everyone is stopped their audio and their video, so that's helpful. But at the end of this, I'll ask for questions and I will welcome you to open up your video and take off the mute. But I want to practice. I want to start by practicing with the chat storm is what we call it. So again, everyone open up your chat, and a chat storm works like this. I'm going to pose some questions to you or a question, and I don't want you to immediately put it in. One thing I love about Zoom as a platform is it's sort of an equalizer. Those of us like me who are an extrovert, I'm right there answering right away. But those of us who are introverts, we need a little time to think about it. And by the way, people like me that are extroverts, sometimes I answer too quick. It's helpful for me to think about what I'm going to say a little bit and write it down. So with the chat storm, I will pose a question and I'll give you a minute or two to put the answer into chat, but do not press enter until I tell you. And I'll kind of give you a countdown, you know, got 30 seconds left, and then I'll say press enter and we'll all press enter at once. This is why they call it a chat storm. So everything comes up at once. But that way we get the diversity of ideas. So this is what we're gonna do. There are kind of three things I want out of this chat storm. Two of them, hopefully you already know what they are. So I'm gonna show you in the chat what I'm gonna ask for. I want you to put your name because I can't see all your names there. Some of you are representing organizations, maybe some partner agencies to the One Stop or America's Job Center system. So I want you to put your name, who you are. You can say, you know, I'm a workforce professional. I'm a job seeker. I'm an employer. Whoever you are, put that in. And then I want you to say what you hope to get out of this class. So again, don't press enter. Put it into your chat. I'm going to give 1 minute for this, and then we can all put that in there. So let's get going on our chat storm. Okay, you're about halfway through, 30 more seconds. So nice to see so many people here. Thank you. 15 seconds. Get ready, your name, who you are, what you hope to get out of this class. Ready? Press enter. Okay, and I have to put my glasses on. Sorry about that. Oh, hi, Camille. Oh, welfare to work. Wonderful. I'm so glad you're here. Great. Ramon, wonderful. Yeah, Janny, great to see you. Rosie, wonderful. John. Yeah, well, it seems like you're all interested in learning about the topic. So there we go. My goal is to meet that. So thank you for joining. Let's do this. Let's look at this a little bit. Social media, you know, it's so interesting. I'm sort of a student of history and sociology. My background originally was international political studies, my first undergraduate degree. And so I've been really interested in sort of looking kind of a historical perspective. And when we look back, you know, it's kind of like the world changed in 2007. And I don't know if you're clear on what happened there, but that's when the first iPhone came out. Now it took 3 or 4 years, probably around 2010, 2011, for this idea of having this computer in your hand where the whole world is here, right here in front of you. But it had really an earth-shaking, and I mean global impact on how we live our lives, the access to information. I have 2 children who are just completing and in college, and the whole idea of test taking and how people learn information is completely different because guess what? All the information is in here. We have to remember, we have to know how to think critically and to look things up. Well, it's also impacted the whole world of human relations and human resources and the hiring process. And that's really what brings us here today. So social media brings the world in the palm of your hands. You have the world at your fingertips. And yet, you still have the responsibility to maintain your reputation on social media, even though you may be doing a lot of things that feel social to you. The line is sort of blurred, and this is what we're going to talk about. So when you're searching for a job and the hiring managers get interested in you, your employers want to learn everything they can about you. So they study the information that you've submitted, your application, your resume, any additional questions they might want to ask you. They do listen to what they hear about you from your references. Those are the official ways of getting information about you. But I can tell you, they're going to be asking other people, have you ever heard of Kathy Markove? Have you ever worked with her? What do you think about? So they're going in what we call the hidden job market. I'm going to talk about that. But they're also going to get what's ever available to them on the internet. Now, it's a legal gray area about employers searching you, say, on Facebook and that kind of thing. But again, it's a gray area. And I'm going to tell you that it does happen. But there's also some solution for the employer liability, but it still happens. But the point of this is that your reputation is more than just the official paperwork you turn in for a job. It ends up being also people that know you in the community and the work that you've done, and also your social media presence. So your reputation is your worth. The question is, what does your social media presence say about you? Now, I'm a big Star Wars fan, and I love this from Yoda, right? He says, you do or do not do. There is no try. The interesting thing about this, we spend our time doing all sorts of things on our smartphone, on social media, but are we trying to protect our reputation? This is really important. It's a level of consciousness that we all need to get to in ensuring that everything that we put online that is open to the public, and sometimes we think it's not, but it could be, depending on the situation, which I'm going to talk about, that it is upholding our integrity. It's upholding our professional persona and reputation. And this does mean sometimes. I remember once I had a girlfriend over, and we were having a party, and she pulls out her phone, and I know she puts a lot of things on Facebook. And frankly, I did not want pictures of me on her Facebook page that would be tagged with my name, where I'm having a lot of wine and I'm having a good time. I like to have fun, but that's private. I don't want the whole world knowing about it. And she's a great friend, and she respected me, and she put her phone away. But that's the kind of consciousness to be aware of. So this is really up to you, and you either do it or you don't do it. There is no try. And so this class, I hope, is giving you motivation. I'm encouraging you to try to protect your, to do it, to really protect your professional reputation on the internet. So again, we've talked a little bit about social media, but in our highly technological world, your reputation can either make or break you on social media. I have a question for you, and you don't have to answer it, but if I did a Google search and a sweep of your social media right now in front of the entire class, think about that for a minute. How would you feel? Would you be concerned? Would you be worried? Would you be embarrassed by what I found? This is a really important question to ask yourself, because anyone, anywhere could do that at any moment. I know that we like to think of the things that we do on social media as personal or even intimate sometimes, but it's there, and it's there forever. I know you think that you got rid of it, but it's never really gone. Now, employers, when they're hiring, they also have official means to look into the deep web to get some information, things you might have thought were cleaned up or gone. Now, even if you put things out there that you're not so proud of, do the work, try to clean it up. That will also show up. Now, this is not a class on, say, investigating harassment, sexual harassment, discrimination, that type of thing. But I do teach that class, that mandatory class for the state of California. And a lot of people say, well, I got rid of it. Yeah, well, did the person you send it to also get rid of it? And what about, if there's a legal investigation and people bring in a forensic attorney? I mean, there's nothing really you can do unless you're some kind of computer whiz that would totally get it gone, that a forensic attorney and investigator couldn't find what you thought you erased. So we want to start off with the perspective of knowing whatever we put on the internet could be forwarded, could be viewed, seen by anyone at any time. Remember, what was that, Anthony Weiner? He got caught sending lewd pictures. Very bad last name for somebody who likes to send the kind of pictures he did. He didn't do it once, he did it twice. He's done, right? And I'm not talking here about retribution. We're talking about reputation. Would an employer want someone who had sent text like that working for them? Probably not. And so this is what we're talking about. Start off with the perspective of just making sure everything you put on there is upholding your sense of integrity and what you want people to know about you. So let me ask you a question, because we are talking about social media, but it's not just social media. It's really anything that we put on the internet. So I have a question for you, and the question is this. What does the E in email stand for? And we don't really have to do a chat, but I'll put it here. What does the E in email stand for? So put that in the chat. What does it stand for? Yeah, electronic, right? This is what people say. And I'm going to tell you that officially, yeah, it's electronic mail. But from an human resource point of view, from internal to organizations, from a strategic, from an executive leadership point of view, I'll tell you what the E stands for in email. It stands for evidence, right? Now, again, this is not a class where we're talking about when you're inside an organization, but it is important for everyone to know. Anything that you use your company-owned email server, right, for is the property of the company. So a lot of people think I'm sending these emails off using my company email. It's private. It is not. And the E stands for evidence. Texting also stands for evidence. And so this kind of thing is really important. Anything electronic provides evidence that it can be found forever. So this is what's really important to kind of think about. Here's some examples of when somebody may have had an intention, but it was not what it was expected. Now, the important thing to remember as I'm sharing these examples is that oftentimes, particularly on social media, our intent is to share something more of a personal nature or opinion or whatever. And that might be fine for your Facebook friends or Snapchat or something like that. But what if your employer looked at it? What if you were, going for this great job? The impact may be very different than what you intended originally. So here are some examples. So Sue, and these I've changed the names and the circumstances to protect the guilty because these are true stories. So Sue needs a job. She's a top candidate. But last night, the hiring manager was at bed on their iPad and found Sue's Facebook profile and saw that 2 weeks ago, Sue announced that she was pregnant. So now the hiring manager, they can't unknow that. The question I have for you is, if you were the hiring manager, would that change how you thought about Sue? Right? They're not really supposed to know that. It's illegal. But would it color how you thought about hiring Sue? Okay, here's another one. Tom is looking for a job in the financial industry. He's asked to participate in a group interview with his future teammates at the most well-respected firm in town. He does really well in the interview, but after the interview, one of the teammates shows the owner of the company a post that Tom had on Snapchat where he was partying wildly with his friends just a few weeks before. How do you think the owner might worry about Tom's behavior in that type of job? Would that be a concern or not? Here's another one. Jack is very opinionated about politics. He works for a nonprofit organization and is looking for a promotion within that organization. As part of the process for Jack to become an executive in that nonprofit organization, they are conducting several types of background checks on all the top candidates. He's one of 3. He's the front runner because he's internal. They do a regular criminal background check. They do a financial or credit check because as an executive, he'll have responsibility for the financial health of the organization. And they conduct something that's called a social media check. We're going to talk a lot about that. They are not necessarily new, but becoming more prevalent. So these 3 types of background check: criminal, financial or credit, and social media. The background, criminal and financial come back good, but the social media background check identifies several posts where Jack has supported different comments and sites that are discriminatory and supports positions in the direct opposite of the organization. So the question I have for you, if you were the president of that nonprofit, should Jack get the promotion? So these are the kind of things I'm talking about, right? So this is important for us really to consider. The challenge is that when you post and engage on social media, you really have no idea who's going to see it, nor the impact it might have. And employers are taking a risk by being discriminatory by using that information that they casually found on the internet. That's true. For instance, from the previous example, if Sue was not hired because the organization thought that she was pregnant, that's illegal. But how is it to be known that the hiring manager just came across her Facebook posts, right? So this is a challenge because honestly, employers do this all the time. And how would Sue know? But the reality of the situation is that we're always Googling each other all the time. And if we need to start to look through the lens of our hiring managers. So social media can be a wonderful way to introduce yourself to new employers, or it can be disastrous for you as an applicant or for employees who are trying to promote. What's the solution? Okay, because there's dangers for employers learning things randomly on the internet, even though it happens. They hire companies to do this social media background check. So I mentioned them before. I don't know if any of you have heard of them, but they're real and they're becoming more and more important in human resource and recruiting circles, okay? So casually looking up applicants, again, is this legal gray area, but in order to overcome it, employers are hiring companies that are legally compliant to provide these services. Not only are they legally compliant, but they can do a much deeper and much more thorough search than you sitting at home with your iPad. So not every organization does it, but and you really wouldn't know until you got to the final stage. You have to sign an agreement just like you would for a criminal background check or a financial background check, but you don't want to be the final candidate in a job and then all of a sudden realize that you have to do a social media check and try to clean it up now. Every one of us should be aware and conscious of what our social presence is and do the things that it takes to clean it up so that you are supporting your professional persona. So this becomes more and more important as the competition gets very stiff. So a year ago, there were not enough workers or not enough people looking for work for the open positions. But We know because of COVID, the thing is completely turned around. Now there are hundreds of applicants for every job. And so you don't want your social media presence to make you stand out in a bad way. You want your social media presence to help you stand up in a good way and to support your professional reputation. There was a question, does the employer have the right to ask to see your social media? Well, they can if they're hiring these organizations to do it. They could, I would probably say, do you have a policy on that? They should have a policy to support it. But the reality is there's nothing keeping someone at home on their phone or on their iPad from doing it anyway. So the best course is just to make sure that what we're doing is really supporting our social media. So there was an act in 2011. It was called the Fair Credit Reporting and Federal Anti-Discrimination Law. And what it did, it gave companies social media intelligence green light to run background checks of your internet and social media history. So here are some of the things that it looks for. These official background checks, they look at social media, they look at what Google searches you've done, they look at Bing. They have the ability to go into what they call the deep web, find out how you were in school. Did you cheat? Did you, were you active in certain organizations? What you did, any government, private databases that are not available through common searches. So that's what's important. What kinds of things are they finding? They're looking for specific things. So I'll tell you what they're looking for, what they can't come up with. So they're looking for objective material. So racist remarks, racist behavior, discriminatory of any kind of way. They're looking for explicit jokes or photos. They're looking for illegal activity as defined by the employer. And this is important because the employer makes an agreement with the company to look for specific things, right? And they're going to do it off the information you provided them. They're not going to find some kind of other email for you. They're going to use what you put in the application. So they may not find everything, but you need to put your whole, your online presence together in a way that the official presence that you have with a good email, we'll talk about that, is the one that would be social media checked and the one that would come up. What are they looking for? Aggressive or violent acts or assertions, unlawful, discriminatory activity, making racist statements, making sexist statements, making statements against people with disabilities, against transgendered people, right? Forwarding things like that. We need to be careful this day, right? Sexually explicit activities, photos, videos, texts. And I have seen some of these reports and they're kind of shocking. Like you'll see a person who you would never think, and then you see these really disgusting sexual things that they did. They look like your little cousin who's in college, and then all of a sudden it's like, ah! So we want to make sure that we're doing what we can to protect ourselves. So what they can't see your ethnicity, can't see any alias accounts, okay? We'll talk about that a little bit in a minute too. So a social media background check only looks at the information the employer asks them to look for, both the kinds of things they're looking for, but also using the information you gave your employer. You can have as many emails as you want. You can have as many social media accounts as you want. Have you ever thought about having, some fun email name, Kathy from Santa Barbara Surfers or whatever, email for my fun stuff, but then having something more professional. I do, KathleenMarkov@gmail.com, or I have one for my business, Kathy@markovtraining.com. Now, I wouldn't use my business email if I was applying for a job. Why? Because I don't want them to think that I have a business. I'm not going to be committed to having the job. I would use KathleenMarkov@gmail.com. Get something that is in line with your professional persona, because they're only going to check the information that they give you. So ultimately, you are the ones supplying all the data for the background check. because you're the one who supplies the data to your employer. And that means you should be smart about what kind of contact information you put on your resume, and it needs to be consistent. We'll talk a little bit about this later, but I hope you guys are familiar with LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the professional social media site, and anyone, everyone who's working, who's looking for work should have a LinkedIn profile that is consistent, the same email that you would use for any kind of job search, this kind of thing. You can have more than one email, you can have different accounts, but make sure everything you're doing that is on the computer, in social media, or any of these kind of sites, your professional persona is not intermingling with your social. This is one way to keep them segregated. And I'll talk about the advantages of doing this in a minute, but you need to be consistent. So here are some tips to pass the social media background check. You want to set up a dedicated email just for your job search. As I just said, this is important. Now, you may already have one. I'm not saying every job search you get a new one, but have a professional email. I used to teach at Cuesta College and up in San Luis Obispo. I would get assignments emailed to me from students. You'd be shocked. These students know how to use social media, all this stuff. They can write blog posts and have everything really fancy, but they have difficulty, and anyone in workforce, you kind of know this, writing a professional correspondence. So one semester, I had 30 students in the class. I got 28 assignments turned in. 2 were missing, right? One of the assignments had like hot chick at AOL.com. She did not include her name on the assignment in the email, nowhere. It was hot chick at email.com. It was a great paper. She got an A on it, but I didn't know who the hot chick was. So I went back and I looked at my list on the roster. The other 2 people who didn't turn in their assignment were both women. You know, if they'd been both men, I could figure out which missing assignment it was. But I had 3 people who hadn't gotten a grade, and all of them were women. And I didn't know which of those 3 women were the hot chick at AOL.com. I wrote back, they never responded to me. Unfortunately, that person didn't pass the class because they didn't turn in their final assignment. I think they got a C- or something. But this is what I'm talking about. This should even be in your academic world, because people, you know, I look at that, I think this, you know, really unprofessional person, this is not a skill of success, even in academia, is not to add your name and to have some goofy email address. So set up a dedicated email that you use for your professional life. Be consistent in all communication to the employer and in all things the employer has access to, right? So that should be the email you use in LinkedIn. That should be the email you use in any other social media platform that you want your employer to see. That should be the email that you use to blog. We'll talk about that in a minute. Not everybody has to blog, but it's a great way to let people know what you're up to. Use caution posting anything on social media. And I gave you an example of that. I like to go have a good time. I don't want pictures of me having a good time with my friends, you know, showing up in a social media background check. So I ask, please don't post those things. So that wild party picture of you, you know, really, is it worth the impact on your professional reputation? I think not. So Google. You know, I want you to remember that it doesn't mean that your future boss or a person who works in that organization can't look you up, even though they did or didn't do the social media check. So we want to make sure that everything is consistent and you're thinking about that. So I want you to begin to think like a hiring manager. What will they see and how will it impact how they think of you and what your future contributions to the organization could be, right? As an employee, you don't want potential employers knowing certain things about you that might make you look less attractive candidate or not worthy of a promotion due to any personal biases that you may hold. As an employer, even if none of those things matter, just accidentally finding out something could color how you think. So again, this is what I want you to do. Begin to think like a hiring manager. I love this quote. It says, while the definition of offensive varies from person to person, your future is much too important to leave to chance. So it's safer to err on the side of caution when cleaning your social media challenges or channels. Just clean it up. The chance of someone finding information that could be damaging to your career are high. Your best bet is to be careful about what you post and to presume that what you post is public, despite any privacy settings you may have. So this is from an expert, Allison Doyle at the Balanced Career. So I know there's all these privacy settings, and I'm not saying don't use them. Do use them, but don't assume that that doesn't mean anyone can't get in and see things. So we just want to always, when we're posting, have that idea. Who might see this and what might they think of me as a result? So in the handouts, which again, I can't upload for some reason, but I'm sure we'll be able to get them to you later. They'll be posted. There's an article called I Flunked My Social Media Background Check, Will You? And it's a good one. It's actually from a few years ago, but this reporter thought, hey, I don't have anything on there. And he did the social media background check. And unlike, say, criminal background checks that go back about 7 years, social media background checks can go on forever. So this person who wrote this flunked it, and they're telling us the lessons. So, you might be tempted then, after all of this, to shut down all your social media accounts. But I caution you against that as well. 41% of employers say that they're less likely to interview a job candidate if they're unable to find information about them, about the person online. So it's kind of a little catch-22. You just want to make sure that what is there is supportive of who you are authentically and your professional approach. So these are some things that I want to share with you. And this, at the end, I'll give you a challenge assignment that I really encourage you to do. I want you to Google yourself. So Google yourself and see what comes up, right? I was fortunate enough in my career running the workforce system for San Luis Obispo County during the recession that I was interviewed many times for the local TV station when unemployment rate went up, when it went down, when we had a job fair. I mean, you can see I'm extroverted. I have no problem talking with anybody. They would just put me in front of the camera and I'd start talking. So if you Google me, fortunately, you see a lot of nice TV stories about me. That's the kind of thing you want. And maybe you're not in a situation to have that wonderful type of attention. Not that I don't have to clean things up, I do too, but I'm saying, what is it that people would find? And how could you create some content that your employer would say, oh my gosh, this person is fantastic. I've mentioned blogging to you. My 22-year-old daughter just graduated from college in December with a degree in exercise physiology and a focus on nutrition. So she has a friend who has this blog spot, and my daughter wrote a blog. It's just, a few paragraphs. It's called something like Vegan from My Head to Tomatoes. Really cute. But in there, she's just talking about her philosophy of eating and exercising. Well, this is great because she can show her future employer, hey, this is where I stand on these things. And it's really positive and it's super cute and it gives a lot of great advice. It's very simple, but that's the kind of thing you want to create. So this is what I want you to do. This is your assignment. You're going to Google yourself, but don't use your computer either at home or one you usually use at work, because the computers they do by design. The algorithms collect the things that you search. And if you use your own computer, it's just going to come up with the things that you usually see or that you want to see based on your search history. Use a computer at your parents' house or your kid's house or a friend's house. I mean, social distance, right? But get on a different computer in a different internet system on a different server, and then Google yourself and see what comes up. You know, when we're able to go around and not social distance, go to the library, go to America's Job Center of California, sit down at one of the public computers and Google yourself and see what comes up. This is important, okay? If you find something you don't like, take it down. If you can't take it down, write a nice letter and ask that the story be taken down, because you don't want that on there. So here are things you consider deleting: inappropriate or provocative photos, videos, or posts. Things that are provocative, right? Posts or photos that include drinking or using drugs. I know marijuana is legal in California, but I don't really think you want your employer to know that you enjoy it every weekend, you know, a little toke by the beach. That's not something your employer needs to know. So if you got a lot of pictures of that kind of thing, take it down. You know, I like a good celebratory bottle of champagne, but I'm not posting it on social media all the time. Discriminatory comments that relate to race, religion, gender, dare I add at this point, political party. We live in a very inflammatory time. Be careful. Content that complains about your previous employer or colleagues. Don't be a whiner. Nobody wants to hire somebody who has nothing but bad things to say about their former employer, even if that employer was really bad, because guess what? They'll think you're going to do the same thing about them. It's a red flag. You'll walk into the organization and already be branded a troublemaker. So be careful, okay? Delete posts that are overly cynical, grumpy, mean, or overly emotional. And I'll go back to sort of the political thing. I remember years and years ago, probably, I don't know, 30 years ago, when John F. Kennedy Jr., JFK's son, John Jr., he started a magazine called George, and it was a magazine all about politics. And a lot of people laugh, say, oh, who wants to read about politics? Well, 30 years later, it seems that's all anybody wants to talk about. Be careful. We have strong emotional feelings on whatever side you're on, or even if you're totally anti it. Don't let your political opinions really bleed into your social media that you want to share with your employer. You really don't know where people stand. And I can tell you that in the workforce, people don't want people to be political, unless of course you're working for a campaign, or you know, you're working for something like that. That's different, of course. But in the most companies, they want people to come to work and be neutral and align with the values of the organization and come and do your job and be a team player and not turn people off. So just be careful with that kind of thing. Here's what you should keep: profile information that reflects your authentic sense of integrity and responsibility. Produce content that's positive and lifts people up. I like to share a lot of quotes. You know, I don't want them to be overly one-sided on anything, but something really positive, you know, that's intended to lift people up. Content that projects a professional image. People, pictures of you working, pictures of, you know, you doing things, positive things. Content that shows a friendly, positive personality. Content that shows you to be well-rounded and a wide range of interests. Are you volunteering? You know, California's been asking for a lot of volunteers. If you're not working right now, there's so many wonderful things to do. Could you volunteer? And then post that. Say, hey, look what I'm doing. You know, this is great. Content that shows you have great communication skills. So do watch your spelling, full sentences, you know, make sense with what you're doing, because people are going to want to see that too. Let's look at selfies, right? Inventory your selfies. Too many photos of yourself could come across to a hiring manager as either immature or narcissistic. Seriously, if you can't decide how many selfies to delete, ask a trusted friend or a family member to help you trim your photos down. I love to go on social media and see pictures of my friends doing things, but really I don't like to see like 15 million pictures of them staring into their phone, trying to make their smile look better. Just be careful. Too many selfies has a bad impact on you. Inventory all your social media platforms. Scroll through your Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, Twitter history. And so here are some things. Update all your contact information and make sure it's consistent with what you're putting on your resume and that it's professional. Be accurate and consistent with historical information. Don't put on a resume that you have a master's degree and then on your social media say that, you know, you dropped out of it or you're just a candidate. Make sure it's consistent. People will find the honesty more important than any exaggeration that you could make. Don't say you were the director of such and such when you were the manager of such and such. Make sure it's consistent and always add your volunteer experience. If you haven't volunteered, just get going. It's great. I know I've done lots of volunteer work. My intention is always to be of help to people and I always get so much more back. So that is important. Look at the books, the movies, the music that you put down. You know, regardless of what you think of the latest political smear book on whoever it is, you know, I wouldn't necessarily like that one on your social media because it'll show kind of where you stand unless you're working for a publisher that published the book. You won't get what I'm talking about. What book groups are you affiliated with? In this day and age, we need to be careful. Are they really legitimate? Are they helpful in society? You know, a good strategy is local groups that are hitting some needs, you know, like America's Job Center of California, like the Food Bank, right? Like the Humane Society. Everybody loves animals and kids and wants to help people who need food or jobs. So just be careful about that. Watch the things that you follow. Follow things that, again, add to your reputation and don't detract from it. And watch the things that you like. So make sure your tags, your posts, your comments, your photos reflect who you want to be seen as online. Consider if your account should be public at all. Set privacy settings and close accounts down altogether if they really don't reflect well on you. And in the social media background check, that'll come up like you close that account. So you can say, well, you know, maybe 10 years ago, that's what I was into, but I've had a revelation. That's not who I am now, right? Be honest with your employer if anything comes back to haunt you. But remember, you're in charge of what is there and share things publicly very carefully. Monitor your emotions, right? Your posts, your tweets. Watch what they express, watch what they provoke. Be sure to remove anything that may be scrutinized, such as racist, mean, arrogant, judgmental, sexual, or crude comments. Also, go through who you're following in your followers lists and sanitize. I mentioned that before. And don't forget to clean your Tumblr, Flickr, YouTube, Venmo, Instagram accounts as well. So I tend to save things onto YouTube. I know I have playlists. And, you know, I have things like crocheting. I like to crochet, especially during the pandemic. So crocheting patterns, that's not going to hurt me one way or the other. But, you know, I may be saving some things that are overtly political. And that kind of thing we might want to think about getting rid of, particularly at this time. So here's the questions to ask you. Are your posts and tweets positive? Is there a useful purpose to them? Do my posts and tweets reflect who I aspire to be? These are the questions. So if you find you have a need to vent or rage or be opinionated, here's my advice to you. Get a journal. A journal is private. No one will see it. So use social media to your advantage, okay? So blog, you can start a no-cost blog at Blogger, Weebly, or WordPress and put the blog address on your application and invite others to visit. Write blog posts that show off your strengths, discuss your goals, aspirations, or anything else that reflects your ability and who you are as a person. And be sure to share those blog posts on your Twitter or other feeds. This is like what I told you about my daughter. It's a way to build your professional reputation. Add any kind of accolades that you have. you know, anything that is a benefit to yourself or others. You know, put something, hey, I took this class on cleaning up your social media and this is what I learned. I hope all of you can do that. That's great. That's the kind of thing. Did you get a new certification? Did you attend the class? You have volunteer experiences, anything like that. Toot your own horn. And share quotes or stories that is intended to inspire other people. And make everything you do authentic to who you are. You know, be a little careful that things don't have really strong, overly religious overtones for the professional side of your social media feeds. Privately, that's different, but you want to ensure that you're being inclusive of all belief systems. But put the quotes out there. Put little stories, you know, even little animal things that can be super cute as long as they're not, you know, doing the dirty thing or going to the bathroom, you know, cute little things. This is fun. Make everything you do really authentic. You know, there's really an advantage to this, that you are known as a positive, inspirational, proactive person, that your friends on social media will think of you that way, and they'll refer you to open positions that they're aware of. This is called the hidden job market. And it's one of the best ways to find a job. I have a friend, she left a job right before the pandemic and was job searching, so really bad timing. But she's so positive, she's so inspirational, she's an amazing person. And I tell everybody I know, oh, you gotta hire Jill. And actually what's happened to her, she's taken on all of these projects. She's making more money and happier than she was before. But most of it is because her professional network of friends knew her on social media to be so positive that we were referring her. This is a form of networking. We often think of networking as being face-to-face, but networking also occurs on social media, and you need to cultivate your professional network to reach your professional potential. Social media, particularly LinkedIn, can be one of the best methods of networking, particularly during this time of pandemic, to link you to jobs in the hidden job market. You know, people might be thinking, oh, I got to help my friend find someone, and then see one of the posts that you put on LinkedIn and forward the post to the hiring manager. Say, hey, look, this is someone I think would be great. Get in touch with them. But this is, again, why you need everything to be consistent. So be positive, be inspirational, and be helpful, because it's much easier to draw people to you for your good behavior than to force people to support you or to justify or backtrack or apologize for things that really don't show who you are. So Jeffrey Gitmore wrote a great book called The Little Red Book of Selling, and he said, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. And social media is a great way for people to get to know you, but you want to make sure that you're being proactive, you're in charge of it, okay? This is what's important. So here's a couple of things. First, you want to clean up any questionable content from all your social media profiles. Second, you want to design your social content in a way that reflects your best self. And then my question, do you have any other ideas? So what are your ideas? And I want you to put them in the chat. Your ideas to clean up your social media that maybe we haven't focused on. So I'll give you just a few minutes to put that into the chat, and then we'll kind of wrap it up. Any ideas? Yeah, what about the other people posting on your Facebook? You know, you got to be careful about that too. That's a really good question, Janie. I had sort of a debate take off on one of my social media. I actually wrote, and they were both friends of mine. I said, you got to stop. You're on my Facebook. Please stop. You know, and then do what it takes to take those down. That might take a little bit of work, or put in a caveat. You know, I think what's really important when things like that happen, how do you respond, right? Do you get emotional, or do you ask people politely to please, you're on my social media, please stop. This would be important. Anything else? What about the other people post? Oh yeah, we already got that. So, okay, good. So let's look at this. Oh, here, Rosie says, I have a lot of selfies in my IG, but I will definitely delete them tonight. We want to see pictures of you, Rosie, but be careful again, right? Are you coming off immature? Are you coming off narcissistic? You know, part of being professional is having that kind of maturity. We love your selfies. Maybe you can put them somewhere else in something private, or, you know, put them, you know what we have for our pictures? We have like one of these electronic photo albums that rolls. You can get something like that, but you want to be careful with that. Okay, so while you're at it, other things to clean up. Here we go. Email address, I talked about that. Make sure that you have an email address that's professional, right? You're not using a pet name, you're using your name. And I know that there are a lot of people that might have your same name. I'm lucky. My last name is Markov. And we know, we've done the genealogy, there are very few Markovs in this country. And so I'm able to get my full name. I'm lucky. But maybe you can be, you know, Joe Smith number 332. I don't know, but make sure your email address is professional. It's not the hot chick at AOL. That didn't go over well, remember. Watch out for your phone message, and we'll talk more about this in phone interviewing and that kind of thing, but I can't tell you the number of times that as a hiring manager, I would go to call someone for an initial screening. This happened once. I call and the song, you know, Cocaine, like by the Rolling Stones, whatever. Hey, we're having a great time over here. Leave your message. That did not impress me. I did not leave a message, and I did not follow up on hiring that person. So make sure your message is professional. On your email signature, is it correct? Does it link to things you want to have linked to? Does it have everything correct? That's important. Then your resume contact information, is it all consistent with all of that? And there may be some other things, but make sure everything's consistent. And here we are really at the end. You know, it's time for action. What will you do to protect your professional reputation on social media? And what I'd like you to do in the chat, just write in any idea that you have. What are some things that you're going to do after this class in order to clean up your social media? We know Rosie said, look at those selfies again. So what are some other ideas of things that you can do? I don't see anything. You guys put in, yeah, go through your friends list. Yeah, that's true too. You want to go through your friends list. Delete posts where others have argued. Excellent, yes. Let my young cousins and family members know about this. Really important. We've had a lot of conversations around the dinner table with teenagers with phones about this. So great, share it. I love it. This is really key. And here's your challenge activity. And again, Peter, somehow we're gonna have to figure out how to get the participants the handouts because I don't have that capacity, and I'm sorry about that. But here's your challenge activity. Google yourself from a friend's computer, any computer that's not yours or not on your network. Take down any posts that don't reflect your professional goals and keep an updated and robust LinkedIn presence. LinkedIn is the key professional social media place. This is where I have so many friends who found jobs on LinkedIn through the hidden job market. Make sure it's robust, up to date, consistent, and that you're putting some positive things out there. So that's it for this class. Please, please keep in touch with America's Job Center of California and the Workforce Development Board for more workshops. We have one on time management tomorrow at 1 o'clock. You can register for that. And what I would say, does anybody have any questions or comments? I welcome you. I don't know that I can, it says mute all, I can't unmute you, but if you want to unmute and ask any questions or put anything into the chat, that would be great. But I think we're there. It's been my pleasure. Any questions?
Thank you, Kathy. This is Peter. You mentioned the worksheets, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and punch in my email address in the box. Whoever wants to receive a copy of it, just send me an email and I will get that to you.
That's great. And Peter, I'll put mine in too, and we can definitely get that out. And then I know there's going to be a recording of this that's posted, and I'm going to be sending a PDF of it's just a double-sided handout, but there's all the keys that we talked about, and then are some links to some articles and to LinkedIn. Anything else?
Just a reminder, this webinar will be added to our Santa Barbara County America's Job Center's YouTube channel, so you could find a copy of there 24/7. And once again, that's Santa Barbara County America's Job Center of California YouTube page. Thank you.
Well, unless there are any other questions, I'm happy to stay on the line. It's been my pleasure. I wish every one of you luck in your professional career, and go out there and change the world with positive social media. All the best to you. Stay warm and be well. I think I meant stay cool, but certainly be well. I had to think about that for a minute.